We have a huge update regarding some of the Canucks' top prospects, including one player traveling from Europe to join the team next week. I'll get into this later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this daily updates on all around the Canucks, from prospect updates, game recaps, rumors, trades, anything you can think of, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button, and never miss another episode. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Lekkerimäki joining the Canucks. Now, if you've been on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now these days, Rick Dolly did announce that hearing Jonathan Lekkerimäki is leaving for Vancouver on Sunday. Early word he could stay for 8 to 10 days and then go back to Sweden to try to make it to the Worlds. Now it does continue on, and you can just kind of look at Jonathan Lekkerimäki. I'm not going to go into his stats too much. There is a lot to cover. He was the World Juniors MVP. He led the tournament with 7 goals. Yes, he lost and got a silver medal in this, but that is just a few accomplishments he had this year. He helped push his team in the SHL with his team being Abro. They did lose in the playoffs, but ultimately this guy has had one hell of a year, the best way to put it. And when you look at his stats and just him as a whole, Jonathan Lekkerimäki from Sweden is 19 years old, a right wing, 5'11", 172 pounds. He is a right wing, and he will translate to a right wing once he gets to the NHL. The big thing with this is Jonathan Lekkerimäki, a 2022 first-round pick, and he was drafted 15th overall by the Vancouver Canucks. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go into his stats too much. This guy was a World Juniors Championship MVP. He got the silver medal in this. He won one of the top 3 players on his club team, which was Abro in the SHL in the Tier 1 Swedish League, and this guy has been an absolute star. The big thing with Jonathan Lekkerimäki, he's not only the Canucks' top prospect, but he's looking like one of the league's best prospects that's not in the NHL or wasn't in North America. This guy has been outstanding. The big thing with him joining the Canucks, right now Abbotsford is on a road trip for the next 10 to 15 days, I believe it is. So the big thing is he will not be joining Abbotsford. This seems like he will be coming straight over and joining the big club to soak things in. Is he going to get into a game? That's really debatable, and it's highly unlikely, but there is a chance maybe in this 8 to 10 day window that he practices with his team, learns the system. If an injury happens, they'll have him up, and maybe they'll use him for a game to kind of see what he's like, showcase him for next year when he is fighting in training camp to get a full-time spot on this team. He did play his last SHL game. He will not be back in Sweden next year. It's almost certain that he will fight for a spot on the Vancouver Canucks, as I said, or at least make Abbotsford after training camp. Like I said, with Abbotsford on this road trip, there is a chance we get to see him. He's going to practice with the team. He can practice with guys like Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, guys that he might be on their line next year. This guy is lethal on the power play. He has a shot. He has a great passing ability. In the SHL, if you watch any of their games, his biggest strength, like I said, it's just being offensively gifted. This is a guy that could come in, play power play too. You could slide him in the bottom 6, the top 6, the middle 6. He wouldn't look completely out of place. Am I saying he's already a top 6 NHL player? No. Definitely not. But what I'm saying is, in a one-game sample size, you can get away with this guy in the lineup. I mean, we've seen Baines come up. Baines looked great in the top 6. He ultimately did get sent down. But this guy is coming over fresh off a season. He's motivated. He wants to make this team. So what other time is better to make an impact for the next season when you can do it this season? So what's your thoughts on Jonathan Lekkerimäki? Are you excited for him to come over? Do you think he's just going to be watching the games from the press box and getting some reps with the power play, maybe just the top 6 in practice? Or do you think he really has a chance, especially if he presses in practice, to get into a game just to showcase what Canucks fans will be expecting and what they can be looking forward to next season? But talking about prospects, we have a couple updates on other Canucks prospects around the league. So, and like I said, a Canucks prospect update. When you do look at this, Dave Hall, if you're not following him on Twitter, I highly recommend it. This guy knows everything you need to know about Canucks prospects. Huge shout out to Dave Hall. But he does say the NCAA Conference Championship matchups are set, and the Canucks have 5 prospects involved on Saturday. Hockey East, 4:30 p.m. We have BU with Willander and Celebrini versus BC, which has Malone, so that's Boston versus Boston, University versus College. It's going to be a great matchup. You do look at the Big Ten at 5 p.m. Michigan has Truscott, and it's versus Michigan State, which does not have a Canucks prospect. Then you see NCHC at 5:30 p.m. Omaha has Mueller versus Denver, which doesn't have another Canucks prospect. And that's why I kind of want to focus on the top one, which is the Hockey's at 4:30. Tom Willander and Aiden Celebrini and the BU Terriers advance to the Hockey East Championship game against Jack Malone and Boston College. Like I said, puck drop is at 4:30 p.m. PST. I definitely recommend watching this, and we're going to do a little deep dive on a couple of these players, starting off with Tom Willander. Tom Willander is 19 years old. He was drafted by the Canucks in 2023, just last draft. He's 11th overall pick, and he's looking like a monster for Boston already. He's 6'1", 179 pounds, right-handed shot defenseman, and this guy is looking like he legitimately has potential to be a top 4 defenseman. He's a big body. He uses his body to just disrupt pucks. He can use his stick. He's great defensively, and he does have ability to pass, make rush plays. He has the ability to do a lot, especially in his first season with the NCAA. This is a guy that I definitely keep an eye on, as he is in my Canucks top 3 prospects. That's not in the league. Yes, Tom Willander's there, and you have guys like Jonathan Lekkerimäki, but I definitely recommend keep an eye on Tom Willander, as this is a guy that looks like and could project to be an absolute monster, shutdown guy that can lay the body and still put up points for the Canucks, not only in the near future, but maybe as soon as the next 2 to 3 years. This guy, as I said, probably will be back in Boston next year, but we will see him in prospect tournaments. We will see him in this tournament. And the biggest thing with this is we will see him in training camp, making a push to try and make this team next season. Do I think it's going to happen? There is a possibility, but I think Lekkerimäki making it is a bigger possibility. Now, when you do look at this, Aiden Celebrini is another guy that is currently playing with Boston. He is on the team with Tom Willander as well. 19 years old, 6'1", 190 pounds. He was a 6th round pick, 171st overall by the Vancouver Canucks just last season. And when you do take a dive on him and look at what Celebrini does bring, Elite Prospects did write a little bit on him. He has the 2 main tools of a defensive defenseman, mobility and physicality. He closes down space of the attackers in the neutral zone and engages them quickly in the defensive zone. He's aware, he scans for threats and denies lanes with stick and defends the front of the net frame. This is another guy that's going to come over and could make an impact on the Canucks. It's less likely this guy makes it before Tom Willander, and especially a guy like Jonathan Lekkerimäki, but it's still nice to see that the Canucks have these prospects facing off not only with each other, but against each other. And this is the third guy who is going to face off against them, which is Jack Malone. Jack Malone is 23 years old. 2019, he was a 6th round pick, 180th overall. He's a 6'1", 190-pound right wing / center. He's not as flashy as these other guys, but in 36 games right now with Boston, he does have 11 goals, 11 assists for 22 points. This is once again another guy that could join the Canucks in the near future. He is a bit older at 23 years old, but there is a chance he can make Abbotsford within the next year or two, maybe make his way up to the Vancouver Canucks. Who really knows? I think this is going to be awesome hockey. As I said, there are a lot of guys playing, but the biggest one I would look at is this one, because you have 2 prospects on Boston University versus another prospect on Boston College, which is going to be Boston versus Boston. And I know Canucks fans don't want to cheer for Boston, but go watch this. Cheer for these guys, Willander, Celebrini, Malone. It's going to be awesome hockey. Now with that, I do want to get into the second topic. And before I do, talking about comments, what's your guys' thoughts on this? What do you think Willander's projection is going to be? When do you think he makes his way to the Canucks? What's your thoughts on Celebrini? Do you think he will make Abbotsford next year, maybe the year after? Or do you think he's going to take some time to develop? And what's your thoughts on Malone? Are you excited for this? I'm real excited for these matchups, especially with all the Canucks prospects in the NCAA. But talking about comments, the next section is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Alan. He said Joshua's absence has been caused Tocchet to engage and shuffle and try to find some chemistry up and down the lineup. It seems like some kind of domino effect. Joshua's third line has raised the bar for everyone. Sometimes inspiration is hard to come by. Obviously, he's talking about Dakota Joshua, and I did kind of talk about this yesterday as another comment of the day, which we did do yesterday, spoke of Dakota Joshua as well, and just how his absence has made this Canucks team not really lose their groove, but they don't have this energy and inspiration from the third line that they do have with them. So, what's your thoughts on all this? I know it's a lot to take in. Are you excited for Lekkerimäki to come over? Do you want him to make the team as soon as next year? And do you hope he gets into a game this year? And what's your thoughts up on this Boston versus Boston matchup? And who do you hope comes out? And what prospects will you be watching? But that'll be it for this episode of Canucks Digest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. You might be featured on the episode tomorrow as comments of the day. And if you didn't enjoy this episode, I really hope you do enjoy the next. And I'm sorry to hear that. But other than that, take care.